That's
What?
way cooler than I was imagining. That's so fun. I love the.
Morality.
Tonight, we talk about Why You Can't See Me, and then we'll talk about Andor and Ahsoka, as well as Star Trek DS9. But first, some talk about the writer's strike and how it ended. All this coming up right now on The Thing. And welcome back to the Writer Brothers, your Tuesday night home for Andor, Ahsoka, and Star Trek DS9. And of course, the best place for pop culture news. Joining us right in as we get started, of course, is Mr. Kamran Pasha. Welcome. Good to have you. How are you doing this evening, sir? Woo! Everybody clapping, get in the chat, everyone get excited. Cameron can go back to work and we can criticize it now. Yay! Right. No, you're not.
Am I muted?
Now you're not.
Oh,
All
wow.
right, let's try this again. Start over. All right, joining us now once
Wait,
again,
can
right
you
as
hear
we
me?
get started, is Kamran Pasha. We
I can
can't
hear you now, Cameron.
We can
You're
hear
good.
you. Now everybody can hear you. All right, what did you just
Okay.
say? What happens at 12:01 tonight? You're turning into a pumpkin?
Yeah, well, a pumpkin of money. So no, the officially the Writers Guild strike has been announced to end at 12:01 a.m. Just 1 minute past midnight tonight, beginning of Wednesday, the 27th. So that means after nearly 5 months, because I have work. I have work waiting for me. I can get back to work. And so can thousands of other people who have been unable to be employed for 5 months. And so that has been announced. And we also have terms for the Writers Guild deal, which I've got a little bit of time to talk about. But first, thank you so much for everyone for allowing me to come onto your stream today. Can I ask you this? Can you throw me in the private chat the link? I want to make sure that my members of my Patreon know about this. I want to put a link for them to come on and join us in the video.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Corion. Yeah. And that's right. I know you've got you're eager to get to Ahsoka. I know we are. We're eager to talk about last week's Ahsoka, then watch this week's Ahsoka after the show. But we wanted to talk to you first about all of this and what it looks like. So it's officially over. You're back to work tonight. So obviously you're probably really excited about that. But you did have some interesting posts in your Patreon the last couple of days. So we're hoping we could discuss those a little more in depth if you're up for it.
Sure. Like I said, I've got about a half an hour because I really do want to be watching Ahsoka and try to giving some commentary afterwards on my Patreon. So I've got about a half an hour. I'll try to squeeze it all in. So forgive me, I won't be here for your probably won't be here for your last week's Ahsoka analysis.
That's okay.
But I am here to share all the madness that's been happening and where we are with the Writers Guild.
Yeah,
we've got a 30 minutes for your viewers.
Kamran, just real quick, can you talk about just in your last post there on the Patreon, what did the writers wind up winning out of this?
Well, I mean, we're still going through all the details here, but I'm going to go over the two most important things that were the most controversial elements of the things. Let me pull up here on my screen so I can see what I'm actually telling you. So yeah, so there's in my Patreon I sent a link that was sent to us as writers of the deal point summary, because there's a lengthy link to the entire legal contract, which is very long. Nobody's going to read that except the lawyers maybe. So there's a 2-page link there. But the most significant things that we were fighting over that were new to the conversation were dealing with these issues of what is called minimum staffing, establishing a certain number of writers that have to be on a TV show minimum that never existed before. And that was a new idea. And then also, how do we regulate AI? So let me go first into this issue of minimum staffing. And let me preface it by saying I was not and still am not philosophically a supporter of minimum staffing. I think that the staffing should be determined by the showrunner. That's just as someone who is an impending showrunner himself, God willing. That's something that I feel that should be the budgetary issues between the showrunner and the studio. However, this became the crusade that our guild leadership took on, trying to transform how Hollywood does things. And some showrunners privately balked at it. Some did it publicly, like Taylor Sheridan said, I write all my shows myself. What are you telling me? I have to hire 5 people, 6 people? What am I going to do with them? I'm just going to pay them to sit around? I write everything myself. So that was the tension of this. And the studios also said, this is something between us and the showrunners and individual budgets. Why are you interfering in this? So regardless, they came to a resolution that is perfectly fine. But it's about what these shows tend to be. You see, what I'm going to get into is I'll give the details and explain why many of the young revolutionaries who thought the world was going to change on them and they're going to be guaranteed all kinds of new jobs isn't going to come out of this deal just because it's just not how that is. It's pretty much just putting into place how things have been done in the past. What a shock, right? So hold on, I just want to do this. I'm going to give you 1 second here. I'm just sending to the Patreon so you can get some more people watching here.
Absolutely, much appreciated. Thank you.
So, and I'm just sending that link here. I'm trying to do 2 things at once. So I'm just sending that out right now. Okay, so that's out to the Patreon. Hopefully, get some more viewers here, and they'll start coming in. So let me start going now into the details of this thing, of the minimum. Yes.
I was just going to say, we know you're a fantastic writer, and if you end up running your own show, you're probably going to be writing all of it. That being said, if you need warm bodies to fill seats, there are at least a few writers here that would be more than willing to take credit for your hard work.
Absolutely.
Well, it's all good. Well, I actually am not personally of the philosophy of writing anything myself. I developed a show that actually never got on air, but I wrote 10 episodes of a show, and they were initially just asking me to write the whole thing myself. And I actually wanted support. And so I brought on a young woman who was my assistant on a previous show. I brought her on as the staff writer. That actually got her into the guild. And I could have written all 10 episodes myself, but I gave her 3 or 4 episodes. First, I wanted help to just not deal with writing 10 episodes all the time. I'm trying to manage everything else. And also I wanted to give her a break. So she's now a member of the Writers Guild. She got her break, right? So I like having writers' rooms. I just don't like having them mandated, right? Like I like getting married. I don't like someone telling me who I can marry. That's the difference.
That is
right?
a very reasonable approach.
Well,
Yeah.
And so, my question, Cameron, is how many people in the guild or even like attempting to get into the guild really are that illusionary about like these supposed new jobs that they thought were going to happen? Like, is there a ton of that, or is that more just talked about in the media?
No, it's a ton of that. I mean, the writer strike, just like any kind of revolution, is always the foot soldiers are young, passionate people. The Red Guards of the Cultural Revolution were college kids, right? And then how did the Cultural Revolution end? When the government said, okay, we've had enough of this. The young Red Guard said, no, we like rioting. We like destroying heritage. We like destroying 5,000-year-old texts of our history. We love it. It makes us feel powerful. So what did the People's Liberation Army do? They just lined all these people up and shot them, like these 18-year-old kids. They just shot them. And then the Cultural Revolution ended very quickly, right? That's kind of how it ends for young people in the revolutions. It's just, it's just the way it works. And they've done that symbolically here. So let me get into the details. So before I get into, let me just answer. There are about 11,000, right? I think there's about 15,000 people technically in the guild. Not all of them can vote because they haven't worked in many years, right? And so I think there's 11,000 people that are considered voting writers. I'm just going off of estimates I've heard. I don't remember the exact number. 11,000, let's say. And of those 11,000, realistically, about 3,000 of those are actual working writers. You have 11,000 people, as in someone got in the guild a year and a half ago because they got like my assistant. She broke in, wrote a couple episodes for me, and hasn't really worked on a show since then, right? So you got people who can technically vote, but they haven't been doing any much, right? But so 3,000 of that 11,000, so what, about a little over a quarter, right, are actual people like me, who this is our primary profession. This is, we hopefully are working every year, or at least try to, and this is how we pay our bills. So 3,000, so out of maybe 15,000 technical members of the guild, so that's what? That's 20%. And out of the voting writers, it's about 30%. So, that gives you the idea of the balance of power and the thing. But the other 70% were out there, passionately fighting for this. And I had arguments with young writers I mentored who I said, look, this minimum staffing thing, there's a lot of stuff to fight for. There's a lot of stuff we got that I'm like, that's worth striking for, right? This thing ain't worth striking for. Why are we trying to create a new thing that hasn't existed in a century of television, or not in a century, maybe 70, 80 years of television, right? Why are we doing this?
To play devil's advocate, I
yes,
can see the idea that if we're going to have minimum staffing, what we're going to have is the chance for minimum new people. So we're always training new people in every single studio, every single show that ever gets written. If anybody thinks it out, you could always, like, if it's a minimum of 10, 2 of them can always be brand new first timers. And then
but again, I don't think that needs that is the argument. But again, that's but that is the argument. That is one of the arguments, right? That's one of the arguments. My mentee, who fell for this, in my opinion, passionately believed this, because I'm going to get to the numbers now. It didn't really work out for people at our state. I'm going to get to the numbers in a second. But that's one of the arguments. But again, it's like saying, you gotta require people to get married so reproduction can happen, or you kind of just let them do it anyway because reproduction is going to happen, right? People are going to want to reproduce. Most people, right? Those that don't want to, why are you making them, right? They're probably going to be a minority of society. They don't want to pass on their genes, no problem, right? Same thing here. Most people like training the next generation, right? For 2 reasons. One is there's this sense of mentorship and apprenticeship, apprentice master acolyte, the Sith way, right? You want to pass on your knowledge. There's that psychological desire. It was passed on to you. You want to pass it on to someone else. But on a practical level, these young people that you're training will hopefully one day be successful. And if as it happens for most writers, as you get older, your options get lower. Who's hiring anymore? Oh, that person who I gave my break to 15 years ago is a showrunner now. Maybe he or she will want to hire me when nobody else really cares about old 60, 65-year-old dude who's not working much anymore, right? So that's the selfish element of it. So on a practical level, in my opinion, you never needed to mandate it, because if you have any intelligence, you're creating a future generation for all those reasons. But okay, but now to answer it, let's get to the nitty gritty of the details, right? Which it doesn't achieve that. What was agreed on, which I warned my mentee, does not achieve that. It actually achieves what I warned, which is it cements the higher level writers, which is like what I told her would happen. People negotiate for themselves. So let's go into the details of what those numbers are.
Oh,
it's divided in. Yeah, it's what I told you. Rich people negotiate for themselves, and the young and poor people are the cannon fodder. Here we go. So let's go into it. So it's divided. Minimum staffing is divided into 3 tranches. So one is for episodes that are 6 episodes or fewer, and that's becoming more and more common. Obi-Wan, if I recall correctly, was 6 episodes. A lot of the Star Wars shows are 6 episodes. A lot of the Disney shows are 6 episodes. Remember, we started off in a world where it was 22, 23 episodes a year. Then when cable, that was network. Then when cable started, like FX, became 12, 13 episodes a year. Then, as the streamers came on, it went down to 10 episodes. Then it went down to 8 episodes. And now it's getting down to 6 to 8. That's becoming kind of the streamer norm, right? So what happens if you are 6 episodes? Yeah. If you are 6 episodes, let's say you're working on Obi-Wan with 6 episodes, 6 or fewer. The minimum number of writers required for that are just 3 writers, all of whom have to be higher level writers. No young writers are included in that level. So if you're on Obi-Wan, no staff writer is guaranteed a job. Only higher level people. Filoni hires his friends who have been working in the town for 10 years. Here you go. You didn't get what you wanted there, right? As we move towards 6 episode orders, just locked in. There's no guarantee for any lower level writer at that level that we're going to.
Okay, real quick. That's actually a good thing. Because that means that no ideologues can easily just show up, get in the guild, and get all, into places where they can quickly get influence. Because, so it looks like it's a potential mitigating factor, and for sure going to guarantee we get back to quality writing where you have to prove yourself.
But the ideologues are the entrenched class.
Yeah.
Well, each has an ideology. Both is looking out for their own interests, and the entrenched class has just entrenched itself, as I said they would, because whatever. Fine with me. I don't care. I'm in the entrenched class.
Well, no, to me, it's like I'm with you mostly because, I don't understand why these people are trusting the top. You can't ask the guy who already has a Bentley to care about you in your beat up Civic. He doesn't need to worry about his pennies. He needs to worry about his bills, his $100 bills.
Correct. His kids and everyone's sending kids to private school in LA, right? You got to deal with that, right?
Why are these new kids just joining this guild? I don't get why this union is allowed to survive when it's so clearly the exact same issue as the studio.
Because the reason for that, John, is because there was a time. I think that time in Hollywood is since over, and that at this point, playing along with the guilds is just simply to not have any more headache in your life. Because the thing is, it used to be when they controlled narrative in Hollywood, they don't anymore. Mm-hmm. But when they used to have full control of the narrative, if somebody didn't like you, and they had connections, you didn't succeed. And that's what the guilds did. So if you didn't sign up with the guild, you were basically blacklisted from ever being on any official Hollywood production. Right. That's how they lock it all in.
Cameron was talking about these young revolutionaries. They're the ones that motivated this whole thing, and they're the ones that didn't get anything out of this except for the fact that they can't compete with AI.
Well, we're going to get to AI in a second. We're going to get to that. They didn't get that either.
As much as I would love to have this debate go on further, we should let Cameron finish because he is on a limited time frame.
Great.
All right, so let me go through the remainder. So we got about 15 minutes before I have to hop. So all right, so on the 6 or fewer, we said minimum number of writers on an Obi-Wan show. So it's not like this doesn't happen; it's happening, right? Is 3 writers are required, and those 3 have to be writer-producers, which is the higher level, right? The lower levels are the staff writers, story editors, executive story editor. Once you cross the co-producer level, then you're considered a producer. And that's a jump that a lot of people don't make. A lot of people spent their entire 10 years trapped in staff writer, lower, what we call the lower level, staff writer to story editor, and they never break through, and then they give up, right? Because if you're not breaking through in 10 years, you're probably not going to ever break through. So those people are locked out of the future of 6-episode shows, which is where things are going. Oh, well, because what's going to happen is that what also I warned, what always happens in these kinds of things, once you establish a minimum, that tends to become a maximum, right? Because now they're like, we have a budget. Why would we spend more than 3 writers? You're like, well, I'm making Obi-Wan, but I want 5 writers. Nah, you got 3. That's what minimum. That's all. We're going to spend that money on other stuff like ourselves, right? So, nice executive bonus. So, oh, well, that's the lowest levels. But the next tranche, which is God willing, where I'm hoping to be on the show that I'm currently developing, because that's the level that we're talking about with the studio and the network, which is the next tranche is 7 to 12 writers, which again, that's now we're out of the streaming world and more into FX, cable, that kind of thing, right? Okay. And so at that level, the minimum writers are 5 writers, of which 3 must be higher level. So you get a couple of newbies in that situation. But again, remember, the future is not necessarily FX. The future is Apple. The future is Netflix, right? So, and they're moving towards 6. So, but for now, we still have this level, and I'm hoping to take advantage of this level. And this is, as I was, just before I came on this video, I was talking to one of my fellow producers on that project, which we're hoping God willing gets back on tomorrow, right? And we're talking about, okay, what are the next steps? We talked to the network, whatever. And we went over this thing because he's not a writer, he's a non-writing producer. And I read him these things as I'm reading you. He's like, oh, that's it? Oh, we were going to do that anyway, which is 5 writers on my show. That's about what we were going to do anyway, right? I've got the 5 writers includes me 1, 2 more higher level, and then 2 lower level. That's about what I was going to do anyway. So no skin off my nose, right? So that's it. And then for the now dying world of network, if you're working on NCIS or whatever, where you had 22 episodes, or essentially anything over 13 episodes, that's the final tranche. And the 13 episodes, and again, you think, okay, I'm working on NCIS, but this is where the young ones are just about to get screwed. Because you think, okay, I'm working on a 22-episode show, so it's going to be substantially higher than the 5 for a 7-episode show. It is not. For 13 episodes and beyond, the minimum staffing is 6 people, of which 3 have to be big shots. So now on NCIS, which might have 12 people normally, now they're like, well, we can get by with 6, of which, so suddenly of those 12, maybe 6 of them had been lower level. Now it's going to be 3 of them. You see how communism works out? You see how it works out?
Yeah.
I'm with you. And my thing is it's mostly just trusting people that you couldn't trust yesterday. Like, you couldn't trust them before, and now all of a sudden you can trust them because they say we're all on the same team because they finally realize there's a problem. Like, no, just walk out on them too. Especially.
But there was no problem. That's the thing, is there was no problem. The problem was that upper level people were getting eaten out by these younger kids coming. Now they've structured a situation to make that a bottleneck. It's what this guild's been about for a decade. It's what communism is about. Communism is just feudalism dressed up in labor workers' rights. Feudalism is a few people own everything and everybody else is a serf. And the Politburo is the feudal lord.
Right, but that's the same as monopolism too.
Correct. You see, all these ideologies are feudalism. All of them. Capitalism, communism, it's just feudalism, man.
Yeah, that's feudalism with extra steps.
Unions are mostly, they're supposed to be based off of the American Union, which was, we're all technically equal individuals deserving of rights. Now stop ripping us off. And that's what that's been the suckers call for a couple of centuries now. And look at the world. I'm actually a free market guy.
Guys, I just want to point out Orville Nation's awesome comment here. He goes, man, this is gerrymandering for Hollywood.
Exactly.
It's what I do. But look, you see, that's what I'm a traditional libertarian Austrian economics guy who believes in free markets.
Okay.
Pasha,
Cameron, real quick, one question. Were you a natural-born U.S. citizen?
I was born in Pakistan, so I'm naturalized. I was naturalized. Whatever. I can't be president.
You can't. I was gonna throw Pasha York 24 in the ticket and just say screw it. Let's see what happens. but
I can be
You know what?
Secretary of State.
That would be an amazing slogan for you guys to run under. You
What?
know, your Pasha York 2024. You know, screw it. Let's just see what happens.
All right. Okay. So I know we have a lot more to discuss about communist revolutions, but I got less than 10 minutes.
Yeah. So
let me
what
just
else
get to
is
AI.
on the? What else?
Let me get to the other big issue.
Yeah.
The other big issue is AI. So I'm just going to read you the bullet points from the Writers Guild website. I'm just going to read you the bullet points, and we'll go. So on the issue of AI, the new rules are: number one, AI can't write or rewrite literary material. The AI generated material will not be considered source material under the MBA, meaning the AI generated material can't be used to undermine a writer's credit or separate rights. So, okay, that sounds great, but here's two things. One is that was already in the MBA before AI, because the MBA, is the agreement, the agreement between writers, the guild, and the studios. The MBA has always said that the first material has to be a Writers Guild writer. Otherwise, forget AI. If it didn't have that, they could go to India or they could go to Hungary or Poland and get some kid to write a first draft that would be the basis of the material. And so they couldn't, because the first draft has to be a Writers Guild writer. That's why when I brought my young mentee into my show, in order for her to get the right to write on my show, she had to be inducted into the guild. Right? She had to become a guild member in order to write on my show. So we never needed to fight for it, because it's been the rule for 50 years that a Writers Guild human being writer must be what they just described. But they wanted it in writing to, fine. They got a reaffirmation of what the rule always was.
So let me read. I want to understand let me just make sure that I understand what you just said, Cameron. AI has been banned from writing in Hollywood for 50 years. Yes. AI was already banned from
random
writing
dudes in India.
But
anybody that's not a human Writers Guild member has been banned from being the source material.
Let's not forget that the going policy in America is that corporations are people.
John, you got noise again. Sorry.
Yeah, but again, it doesn't matter, because aside from this rule that's gone back 50, we just lost him. Okay. Aside from this rule that we've had for 50 years, the courts have been saying all year that AI material is not copyrightable. So how can that be the basis of an underlying material, right? If I generate a script through AI at Sony, Lucasfilm can steal that script and make it and owes Sony nothing. It's been a silly argument, because the courts have already established AI has no copyrightable material. So whatever, but they got what they wanted. Language reaffirming what has always been true.
And then what it comes down to too is, like, you can't stop a writer from using an AI to write a story and then just editing.
Okay, so that's point two. So I know, look, my friend, I know you all have lots to say, but I got to get through this. So let me say it, okay? So, all right. So I got to say this. So number two, exactly that. The number 2 point, a writer can choose to use AI when performing writing services if the company consents and provide the writer follows applicable company policies, but the company can't require a writer to use ChatGPT when performing writing services. Well, isn't that kind of common sense? It's like a company telling you got to use Google. Well, you're going to use Google anyway. So, come on, man. I can notice the language is all about the company permitting. It's all about the company. Yeah, but look, who is the language geared to? The company permitting and the company forbidding, right? This is who's the one making the rules here. Here we go. Let's get the next thing. The company must disclose to the writer if any materials given to the writer have been generated by AI or incorporate AI generated. Great. Perfect. They can disclose all they want. In any event, that material isn't going to be copyrightable, and that material by the MBA cannot ever be credited. So that's never considered an original source material.
No, it's not an original source, so you can't copyright the source, but you can copyright the subsequent material and all variation.
Yes, but who is doing the subsequent material? A human being.
Right. No, but so here's the big thing, and this is just the foresight in the issue, is like companies are known for repping themselves as human beings in the American Court of Law. So what's to say an AI company doesn't claim to be a writer and join
because it's already been covered. because the first writer must be a member of the Writers Guild of America. A corporation is not a member of the Writers Guild of America. It was already covered.
Yeah. Right, but so
it's not possible.
What's to say a writer doesn't earn enough to buy an AI company that then does this and then funnels and creates it? Like, that's the foresight. Is
funny
so you're saying a member of the Writers Guild would do this? And now we're living in a fantasy world. You're saying members of the Writer Guild would buy an AI company rather than just make money as a writer? As a writer,
an AI company invests in a writer and says they take onus of the company. Theoretically,
but again, there's not a real thing. So let's say the AI company hires me to be their front guy. Let's say somebody calls me and says, we've written a script through AI, but we can't use a non-human as the original script. So Kamran Pasha, we're putting your name on the script. Here's $50,000. Guess what? I am a member of the Writers Guild, so I get a free credit anyway. So it doesn't matter. I'm going to be the one credited for it, and then I'm going to be rewritten anyway by other human beings. So I still win as a member of the Writers Guild. Either way, I'm still covered.
But
there's no version of that where a non-Writers Guild person gets to be the front of that.
What if you only get the $50,000 and the credit and the whole script ends up making $100 million and you never get royalties?
But that's all scripts. Most writers are screwed out of that. I think most writers are getting anything out of the movie.
Writers don't typically deal in percentages.
There's already rules for that. The first person, let's say I am hired to be the front guy of a horror movie that they want to make by AI. It's a lot less if you're going to hire me to be the front guy, why don't you just let me write the damn thing? But fine, I'm your front guy for your experiment. Great. Guess what? I get the credit. I get all the residuals that come for it. You don't get it. Oh, well, what's your benefit? My Kamran Pasha is listed as the first writer on the Writers Guild credits. All residuals, royalties, any Writers Guild awards, they come to me. This poor AI company got nothing out of it. All the money's going into my pocket but under the Writers Guild rules. And so none of these scenarios are real because you require a human Writers Guild member to be the first point. And that was required before any discussion of AI. So not a single thing that has come of the 3 points I've read for you has changed anything. It hasn't changed a thing because there was nothing to change. The final thing I will read is the last bullet point is the WGA reserves the right to assert that exploitation of writers' material to train AI is prohibited by MBA or the law. So they're saying we reserve the right to make this a case someday in law. That's a nice theory. Guess what? I reserve all kinds of rights. That's just standard legal baloney. You reserve the right to complain someday.
Yeah, like I reserve the right to the first Cylon off the production line. Doesn't mean I'm going to get it. I got the right to that.
I reserve it. It's in contract. So you see, we didn't get anything. None of this, all of this AI stuff was available on May 1st. I read the May 1st proposal that we walked out on and went on strike on. All this stuff was there.
Yeah.
So AI didn't get anything new.
Yeah.
The writer's room structure benefits old farts like me, which is what I warned. No problem. I now know on the next show, they got to fill those slots with old farts, so I'm okay. If Obi-Wan season 2 gets greenlit, I'm in the pool to be hired, and none of these young people are in that pool. Great for me. And I oppose this because it's not right. Right, but it's not right. It's not morally right. But whatever. Nobody wanted to listen to me. We struck for 5 months so that I could have more money. Thank you, guys. I'll take it.
Hey, if that is up to our benefit, okay.
Cameron,
you want to give it to me? I'll take it. I got it now. Great.
Yeah. Hey, Cameron, did you ever think you were going to be the token old guy?
Well, that day always comes. I thought by the time I'd be the token old guy, I'd be the token really rich old guy.
Well,
we'll
fair
get there.
enough.
You know why we'll get there? Because the new guild deal.
Your new contract guarantees it.
Be rich now.
Congratulations. That's really awesome. It is now, of course, the top of the hour, or just past the top of the hour. Yes. So if you wanted to bid your farewell or stay on, now is the time to decide.
Yeah, no, I want to thank you. If we can, I'm going to see if I can throw in a link to my Patreon before I go into the chat.
Should be able
because I've actually had a lot of new
members
members coming from Writer Brothers, which I really appreciate. Every time I've come on your channel in the last few weeks, members of your channel, come join my Patreon and start participating, which is very meaningful to me. So I thank you for that. I'm going to throw this in here. Where's the channel thing here? Okay.
And we grow together.
And speaking for myself, you are always welcome wherever I go, my friend. We've had a fantastic working relationship these last few years.
Yeah.
And may it stay long and strong.
Fridays.
Well, I'm going to go cash in my money from this new deal as the old guy. I'm going to go relax and wave to all the unemployed young writers that I warned. I no longer have to hire you suckers. Bye-bye. I'm now free. Even if I want to hire you, they're not going to let me because we have a minimum/maximum now. See y'all later, suckers. Oh, well.
You can just hear Cameron walking down the street with money, playing in the background.
Cameron, I just want to take this time to express what a truly handsome man you are. Anyway, I'm not going to go that far. I'm still my same old asshole self, regardless of how special you get to become. But it goes both ways. It goes both ways.
All right, guys. So you guys, everyone stick around here. There's a lot more to talk about. Ahsoka's not going anywhere, but I feel obligated to my Patreon members to watch it relatively live. So I'm going to go do that now. And then, all right. So everyone, God bless everyone. Thank you for engaging me. Thank you for arguing with me and all good stuff.
Before you head off, I'll just say that real quick, Friday's special episode did inspire me to start a new show every Friday. And of course, the invitation's always open for you to pop in starting at 11:15 Pacific Friday. So
I'll do my best. Now that finally I've got work again, it won't be as easy.
So
I'm enjoying the times that I can come. So, all right, God bless everyone. I want to stick around here and start talking about Ahsoka and 20 other things. All right, God bless everyone. Peace.
Cheers.
Yep. All right. Stephanie
Kamran
Jansic says
Patreon
it's
is
not
awesome.
up. Apparently, the episode isn't up. So
Not
Cameron
yet,
might be back here in a second.
But that all being said, Kamran Pasha's Patreon is up, and he would love to see you on it. Please consider joining.
Absolutely.
It's one of the most
Awesome.
exciting notifications I ever get. It's like being like, "Ooh, what's going on?"
Yeah, you never know what is going to show up on it.
You never know what it's going to be. It's like, "Ooh."
But when it does, it's always awesome. So
yeah, for sure. It's
yeah.
great.
He's never writing in to tell you about his breakfast. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Okay, looks like there's some problems with the Ahsoka upload. Well, guys, share, tell everybody that while you wait for Ahsoka to upload, come hang out with us while we talk about last week's Ahsoka. After we talk about last week's Andor, this week's Andor. All the episodes of Andor are available. Who cares? Talk about Andor real quick. All right. So let's go around the room real quick. Episode 6 for me, I'm rating it a 6 out of 7. I did think it was good overall, but I think the overall pacing of this show could use a little bit of work. I think Ahsoka's got better pacing to slow down every now and then, and I think this show kind of gets a little too sluggish from time to time. But a lot of you are excited for those storylines. I'm still enjoying the show. You gotta understand, as a Star Wars fan, I'm a huge fan of Star Wars: The Old Republic. There's people that are bigger fans than me out there, but I'm the kind of guy that can go replay those storylines and just enjoy being in the world. And so I'm still enjoying Andor. I'm still enjoying being in the world of Andor so far. I still like the character of Andor. So when I say it's got pacing issues, that's why you got a 6 out of 7. Corione.
You know what? This was, I thought, a fairly decent episode overall. What happened in the episode, I think we all kind of expected. This was the logical outcome of everything that has been building to. That being said, I think my major problem with it, this thing is not a linear, a linear plot in that you knew from the get-go where we were going. This is taking this kind of weird winding road approach to me. And every time the road winds and we kind of up with, no, that wasn't the real major plot point, we're going in this other direction. I feel like it's not quite keeping me the way I would like it to. So I think a 6 out of 7 is completely reasonable score.
Yeah. All right, Scogli, quick non-spoiler, huh?
I think this show is awesome. This is the best. I don't know,
This is the best Star Wars I've ever seen. Like, this is like the writing quality of this show. It just absolutely wipes the floor with anything Star Wars has ever produced, in my opinion. This show is stunningly good. It's you'll be like, I kind of get what Coriolan's saying, and you'll like go and you're like, oh, who are these people now? And then you're like, oh, okay, all right. But you can't let your attention wander, because you're like, who are these people? And you don't pay attention, and it doesn't tie back in or whatever. It's like, it is very, very, very good. This is not Star Wars. This is not like any Star Wars you have ever seen. Like, your children are not, there's nothing cute. This show takes itself deadly serious. There is no fluff at all. I am absolutely riveted by this show. I thought the last 2 episodes were awesome. This show is great.
All right, John, non-spoiler overview.
Man, I really realized the difference. Show is not written well at all. I called it from the jump that this was Ocean's 13 in space, and I was 100% right the whole time. They like literally illuminated the whole plan throughout every episode. But the difference is watching it. Because I mostly listen, I can hear how boring it is, and I can hear how weak all of the dialogue is. And because I have zero filler, like I'm working, so like I have to do mostly audio, and I'll glance and I'll look at the fight scenes and I'll rewind and go watch them, and they're awesome. But dude, name one line from this episode or any episode. I'll give you $1.
That conversation they had when
Night at Philip Blair.
I'm Andor.
Did I just say "ad" out loud?
One
Wow, I'm
time.
an idiot. Good night, Philip
Yep.
Blair. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you when we see you.
that conversation when Buddy cuts the stone off his neck, that was some good shit.
Yeah. All right, H. Marie, non-spoiler overview.
Well, the heist is over. Where are we going? Okay. Well, I don't know what other story they have to tell. Okay, where else are we going at this point? It seems kind of an interestingly finite ending for the middle of this show. So it's kind of keeping my interest, but not very well.
And what's your rating out of 7?
7 out of 7.
Probably a 5.
Okay.
All right, so I don't hear hatred. I don't hear any animosity. All right, spoilers are now on. So the big misstep for me in this story so far, while they do have a lot of the other areas covered, is the lack of camaraderie during the heist situation. Like, the thing that I found fascinating, and John, maybe you can back me up on this or counter my point, is that when I was in the Coast Guard, it's really fascinating how quickly the military gets you to become friends with like absolute strangers in a matter of like weeks. Whether it's getting out of boot camp, whether it's transferring to new units, it's like these are people that you have a shared struggle for, and yet you somehow already know each other's struggle if you happen to be like 5-10 years in and have never met before. But in the Coast Guard, it was funny because there's a good chance you've already met like 3 people that you've all. It's a small 40,000 unit branch or 40,000 member branch. So, but that's what I felt like. We had 3 campfire scenes, and that last one kind of started to get it because they were now following with all these, native tribes. I think that was the allegory they were pushing for there, was that these guys were doing their sacred sabbatical, and
Dude,
it was
that
very...
was literally introduced in the beginning. How are we going to do this heist? There's this event that happens once a year. Every year, space explodes for about 12 hours. This was the event starting.
I have to say, visually, the event was quite impressive. I did like it. I did like the nuanced sci-fi concept of this type of celestial event. I can't think of that phenomenon. That's the type of stuff that I, like to put in my own writing to push the boundary. And of course, people say, "Well, how does it work?" I'm like, I just imagine concepts, guys. Like, I try to think of ways I can explain it to work, but I'm a technobabble fantasy writer. I'm not a scientist in that I don't have degrees in engineering and physics, but even then, when I try to study physics, it always seems to keep changing, or something new comes up. And then when you get in the quantum realm, it's like, okay, a quantum physics is literally an imagined science.
Well, it's all deep lore math, right?
That's pretty much what it comes down to.
But I think the cool thing about like this explosions in space stuff is just chemistry. Like theoretically, if there's a certain type of asteroid that explodes in our atmosphere and it's like mostly sodium, we're going to see a brilliant light show.
Yeah.
Because it just reacts to oxygen differently. And so the same thing theoretically is possible. Odd, obscure, but then the Force. Like that's the nice thing about Star Wars is like it has the potential for science, but then also has the Force to just give you the fiction. But like that's kind of the part that like this show really wasted. Like I loved how in Rogue One the most Force we see is an absolute monk of a warrior.
Not true. We see Vader too.
Okay.
I know. I like to forget about that part, and then I'm like, oh no, wait, we had a lightsaber. Damn it!
Like we didn't technically see him. And so, but mostly what I mean is like, this is the show where like the luck part. Like, this is why May the Force be with you is a colloquialism. Like, good luck, instead of good luck, it's May the Force be with you. And that's why Han is such an ass. It's because he never gives anybody the Force. He only says good luck. And that makes Han better, and it emphasizes all this other stuff within the lore. To me, it's legitimately just not taking advantage of the world that's already been built before you. Yeah. Again, like, but when it comes to the overall, like, camaraderie portion of this, these guys aren't sucking the same stuff. One of them bought in. The rest of them are a mixed match of assigned troops, and nobody's a leader. And that was something that was also illuminated at the start, which is what's frustrating for me.
You know what? Hold on. I just hit it as I'm listening to you talk. I just had a thought that maybe that was the whole point. That maybe the reason they didn't build up camaraderie was so that everything could go as horribly wrong as it did. And so that it basically is a lesson in, this is why you get to know the people you're going to go and do a battle like this with. Because in the end, what happens? The one guy starts talking about, churning and taking all the pot for themselves and splitting it even. And I got to give Andor credit for doing exactly what I would have done in that situation, which is shoot the guy suggesting that as soon as somebody starts talking about backstabbing, it's like, all right, you just outed yourself as a potential threat. You're done.
That quick draw was sick.
Yeah, no, my view on Andor is considerably changed watching this show already.
I had no idea.
Like, I'm excited to watch Rogue One again after this. Believe it or not, I hate that movie.
Fair enough.
Like, I thought the way everything went down was like really intriguing. I'm watching them go up the hill. I'm like, these guys don't trust each other. Like, this is gonna go bad. Like,
I love that. To me, it is so much just that, like, that's all that's been said. Literally every single conversation throughout the entire episode is, can I trust you? I think I can trust you. I hope I can trust you. You can trust me. For now.
Who brings a treasure to a robbery? It's like, good point, man. And then he just tells them, it's like, oh, huh.
A random person in a rebellion carrying his one most valuable object makes complete sense if you remember hobos. Like, people used to only carry their gold. Literally everything else they would just
it's all he has, right?
Keep their gold. So if you have a $50 billion piece of gold and it fits in your pocket,
where are you going to put
that thing in your pocket? And that's what I'm saying is, like, so much of this is just yes. And you guys are loving it because of the visuals. And I'm like, okay, that's awesome. Well done on the visuals. But, like, this is Star Wars. and this is Disney, and
It's
this
not-
is a $1 million like project, and you literally just hit every single checkpoint. Like this is the first video game you've ever attempted to release.
This is so like not Star Wars on like any level.
No, it's mostly just Ocean's 13
Oh,
in Star Wars.
I
Oh,
disagree.
it's way
I
better than
disagree.
Ocean's
The Star Wars feel is still very much there, and not just in the nostalgia of it. Like this still feels like this feels like we're making, we're actually humanizing the Empire with this show. But
movies like Ocean's 11 and 13, that's like mainstream, like normie schlock, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But this has actual weight.
And sorry,
this makes me feel something.
Yeah, and let me catch up here. Daniel Larson, who's choosing to stay behind instead of watching Ahsoka. The second 3-episode arc is over. The next one is a setup before another 3, then the final 2. Okay, so
Yeah,
if that
I'm just
answers your
baffled
question,
at what could
H3,
possibly
it looks
happen.
like, yeah, we're going to set up into a new arc again. And I kind of dig the mini arc series. Like I said, I really love those first 4 episodes of Picard Season 3. Like, that is still
given
a
how
standout.
short series are now, these arcs are like, more or less 2-parters, right? Like, I mean, I would really like a, 5-episode arc, a 10-episode arc. But because they've shortened the seasons down to nothing, we don't get those anymore.
Yeah, we need to get back to 20-episode minimums. Unless you can justify cutting down to 15 or 10. It's like, because look what Strange New Worlds suffered hard. If they had 20-episode seasons for both season 1 and season 2, I probably would not have reacted so negatively to the musical. But it was it's like, you guys barely are off the ground here because you haven't had enough screen time to properly develop. I mean, I think they'll hit a good stride in season 3 still regardless, but it's like, I want 20 episodes. I want more time with these people.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it goes back to Cameron's point earlier. A minimum becomes a maximum, and then a maximum becomes the standard, and that's super annoying. So I think if we're going to talk about minimums and maximums, it should be that there's one minimum through plot.
Yeah.
Through the
CC
series.
karaoke.
However long the
See a
season
friend.
is, however long the series is, you have to write the full plot to the series. And then you have to write the plot for each season. And then, because this is also important, the plot for each episode. Because that's what's been killing me.
But
Every time I end an episode, I'm done.
But
Like, I
John,
don't-
that's how you can't plan a whole series. Who could possibly plan a whole series with like roughly 26 episodes and 3 whole seasons? Oh, right. One of the greatest shows ever made, Avatar: The Last Airbender, did exactly that. And
I was going to respond with JMS Babylon 5.
I had a feeling you were
I
going
was
to say
going to
B5.
respond with myself. I wrote a 5-game series.
There you go.
Cool.
All right.
Daniel
Because I
Larson.
thought
I'm
this-
stoked.
I look forward to
Marty
criticizing
Brown.
it on this show. I look forward to playing it and making fun of it on this exact network. But
Exactly.
yeah, and yes, hail to you, CC Karaoke. Good to see you. I need to get on your show sometimes and sing some songs because I've been singing a lot at home, and I think I'm ready to inflict that upon the rest of the world. But yeah, I think it's good so far. I'm looking forward to the rest of this show, and then of course we'll just be doubling up on Andor after Ahsoka ends, which is next week is the last Ahsoka
Oh, wow.
episode. So,
The end of this Andor episode, I was like, that was fantastic. I was like, how many episodes are in there? Wow.
we do got
What?
we got some length with Andor,
The
thankfully. So
bar
we
has
get
been
more
set
Star
very
Wars.
high at the middle point for me. I'm like, oh man, how are they like? And Daniel says 8 and 10 is like,
I'm looking
yeah,
forward to seeing
I'm
it.
stoked.
Yeah. Real quick
They've
though,
set
before
the
we get
bar
going,
really
yeah.
high.
Daniel Larson says, I'd like to see more of camaraderie with Belle smoking. To each their own. She doesn't do it for me personally, but I don't decide people's tastes. You do. That's what we are at the Writer Brothers. We'll tell you what we think, never how to think, and never what to think. And then Daniel Larson says, I saw as showing not every wartime scenario brings troops together, and even if there was operations, if that was their operations go south, the drudgery failure aspect of war in Andor was its niche. Yeah, exactly. So it's because they didn't work together as a team, their operation failed hard. And I think they would have been better if they had trained closer, they had reasons to bond. But You know, because in the end, if you don't give someone something to fight for, the humans won't do it. And this isn't something that's like brand new. This has been going on since the Crusades. You know, if the leaders at the time of the Crusades, since we already talked about feudalism on tonight's episode, came out and said, we need to go and secure trade lines so you can make me rich, your people are going to turn on you. They're not going to appreciate your honesty in that sense. They're going to see reason to kill you. Whereas if you come out and bullshit them with, the Holy Land needs to be recaptured, will you die for the Holy Land? Well, of course, that gives them something to die for. And so that's
what's the response? Deus Vult.
Right,
Deus
exactly.
Vult.
So what they needed was something to rally behind and get these guys together. And that's what the ideologue with his book and manifesto was trying to do and get everybody rallied. But that's why he didn't have any reason to live anymore. It's because nobody cared. Nobody gave a shit what he had to say. So why should he, when he got crushed by the cargo, he probably didn't give a damn because it was his excuse to get out. And that's why he died. He didn't care. I don't think he actually died. I think it was a combination of succumbing to his injuries and also just being so discarded as a living being that it didn't matter at that point whether he was going to live anymore. That's really tragic and sad. Damn, Andor's a good show. Daniel Larson says, sadly, I will either be late or not here next week. Got my ticket to see the creator. Good. Well,
That
guess
sounds
what,
ominous.
Daniel Larson? The show will be here for you because that's what our customer base is going to be surrounded on is customers first in that sense that yes, I prefer if you guys are here interacting in the chat. It helps us grow. It helps us play the algorithm. It means I don't have to spend time cutting shorts together, which I just find annoying personally, but it is what it is. And so, yeah, that's what's that. CC Karaoke says, Filoni is no Jedi. Will he reestablish the Lucas Order or take out KK to become the master of his own kingdom? I kind of think, personally, that possibly the latter one, but I don't know. Filoni's big secret mission has been to just make Star Wars, and he's the go along to get along type. He's a businessman first. And so if he had to get along with Kathleen Kennedy to make Star Wars happen, that's just what he had to do to make Star Wars happen. Just like, me, especially now with the new guild rules, I'm going to have a base respect for Cameron all the time if I want to stand a chance of any of us getting an actual script off the ground through the Hollywood machine. So that's just it. But I respect Cameron regardless because Cameron's a respectable guy. He's been nothing but a friend to us and has been honest with us about everything and doesn't hold back. I thoroughly enjoyed watching you and him go at it, John. That was a lot of fun.
And guys, just in case any of you are wondering, the Cameron that you see on this show, the Cameron that you see when he shows up on YouTube, that is real life Cameron.
That's the only Cameron I've ever seen.
you get pure, like, I've interacted with him in like day-to-day life. That is pure, unfiltered, uncut, Californian Cameron. Except no substitute.
Yeah. So CC Karaoke, I think that I think what it came down to with the Lucasfilm Civil War was that it was Jon Favreau waging a one-man war against KK and her minions while telling Filoni, dude, I'll take care of her. You just write good Star Wars. You just be nice. You say your nods. You do what you need to say. I'm going to handle the dirty work. And he did, because that's what Jon does. Jon's capable of fighting a one-man war in Hollywood because he's Jon fucking Favreau. Regardless of whether you agree with the man's, talent or whether you think some of his products are good or bad, the man himself, his credit and character speaks for itself. He didn't compromise when it came to standing up for Gina Carano. And regardless of your political beliefs, I think we can all agree that McCarthyism was a fucking mistake and that ruining people's livelihoods over a political disagreement is just silly and wrong. And we don't condone that here on this network. We don't condone... We agree with a reasonable amount of, when it's time to call somebody and hold them to account to do so. But then there comes the time when it's time to move on and it's time to continue on with life. And it's not worth destroying another human's life just to prove a point and to feel virtuous. That makes you the enemy in the end. A little preview for Friday's show. Really excited about it. We need to move on real quick. But Daniel Larson says, Filoni will do what Favreau once Jon has secured his kingdom. Crickets from the blobs on where Favreau is. Yeah, funny how that works, huh? Everybody's kind of going quiet with their sources lately.
Also, have you noticed their sources have not been reporting the fact that KK reduced the price on her health or on her house in Malibu to sell it quickly.
And that's why we don't play tribes on this game. We just play the truth.
That's it.
So yeah, Nemesis of Eden says, I have to go now. Pop sci-fi horror stream needs me. Stay amazing. Yeah, you as well, Nemesis. Thanks for stopping by. One of our best supporters. CC Karaoke says, I have beef in my mac and cheese, but no beefs. Respectful discourse equals growth of the mind. Exactly. And that's the thing. You want a free society? Everybody's got to disagree somewhere.
More
Yeah,
speech.
like CC Karaoke. Beef in your mac and cheese? You monster. Kid.
Yeah. I love brisket mac. Come over and make that for me anytime. Nemesis of Eden says, I'll catch you on the rerun. Same to you, buddy. Corio, which residence in response to your nice words. All right, let's move on to a very Ahsoka-free Ahsoka.
You know what, though? Look, this is like, in my opinion, this might have been the most necessary Ahsoka episode of the series yet.
Yeah, now, before we get into it, I do want to actually preface the Ahsoka discussion once again. So, first of all, I can hear myself, so bear with me while I go through and see where it's coming from. I think it's just on my... Nope. Okay, we got it. All right, Skogli, you'll just have to have your finger on the mute button. I don't think it was you, John, but that's okay. I'm going to unmute Skogli now. And then, oh, nope, it was John. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know.
I was going to say, your stuff was
my
working all
routing's
night.
clean as my
Everybody's gear was going great, and then we hit an hour in it, and it's all downhill. The stream died at the end. Anyway. No, I'm just kidding. I want to preface our Ahsoka discussion once again with more. So, some of the things that people need to realize, I will admit that relying on context is not the smartest strategy when it comes to writing a story. One of the reasons Rogue One fails, in my opinion, is because without the context of the other Star Wars movies, what are you watching? And I think that for a piece of literature to truly stand on its own, standalone ability is important. Now, some people might say, well, that's impossible with certain movies. And I'd say, if you decide to serialize so heavily your story, that's your decision. But understand, you're going to have to accept the consequences of being so contextual heavy. Because the truth is, that's not true at all. I didn't watch a single
show that nobody watched.
I didn't watch a single Spider-Man, Tom Holland Spider-Man movie before I watched No Way Home with my grandparents, who hadn't watched hardly any MCU movies in like years. We loved it. We all had a great time. It's still probably the second best Kate movie of all time. So yes, you can still write a story and still, not have to rely as heavily on context while still making good stories. It's totally possible. But
they told us and showed us what was going on and why stuff mattered. They didn't just assume that their vast audience,
right?
Like, how many people watched Rebels?
I did.
Look at the streaming numbers; they're abysmal.
Yeah. Well, that's
nobody watched it.
Well, it also aired on Disney Plus.
Yeah, it aired on the other one, the lower one.
Yeah. Okay.
It wasn't on the main channel either.
Oh, jeez.
Like, I heard
it was on Disney.
I can't remember what the exact numbers were, but they are very low. Like, it's not a hyperbolic to say nobody watched it.
Okay, but there were some definite high points in this episode.
I know, and I'm getting to that. But the point in bringing up the reliance on context was literally just to go and admit that, yes, this show suffers from lack of context. Now, not to the degree of Rogue One, by any means. It does a good job of filling in the blanks. Like, Jacob's father was a Jedi.
Seen Star Wars. Everybody's seen the context that Rogue One builds on. Like, everybody and their cat has seen that context.
Now, the other side of that, though, the other issue that I think Ahsoka is being affected by is budgetary constraints. Ahsoka's budget, I do believe, was chopped after Book of Boba Fett and Andor, ironically enough, were so poorly received.
Significantly was.
It was because, they originally had, Ahsoka was going to be, I think, close to a $500 million budget. They were going to go balls to the wall with this show. And because Andor performed so badly, and because Book of Boba Fett performed so badly, it was like, we can't afford it. So they considerably cut costs. And so basically what I'm trying to say is, Filoni probably had a script and a story written out that would not have required context as much. But the problem, and this is the big nightmare for a lot of writers, from what I have heard and researched, of course, not really being a Hollywood writer myself, I don't know. But what I understand is that rewrites with budgetary constraints or budgetary slashing can basically kill a series. If not, yeah, completely. So the fact that Filoni is still able to work with what we've got on a lower budget than what he was originally planning for, it still feels like the best Star Wars since Episode 3. And there's a lot of good, and I liked this episode. But like I said, I think a lot of the lackluster pieces of it and some of it is like they basically, what it probably came down to was having to make decisions on what parts of the story they were going to tell and put emphasis on. And I'm willing to bet a majority of the show's budget was put towards that Clone Wars episode. But look at the hype that it generated. It got Disney exactly what they wanted. People want a live-action Clone Wars. Now you can just take episodes of Clone Wars and just copy and paste them for the live-action folks. And that'll probably make a buttload of money. But Orville Nation says, good stream, guys. Thank you, Orville Nation. I appreciate the support. Now, time to get into our Ahsoka discussion, actually, for reals this time. And that is, so for me, this episode overall, I'd say it's about a 6 out of 7. And I think you guys know where my complaints are probably going to come in from. It's what everybody else has been complaining about mostly, and rightly so. I can't argue a couple of the points on this episode that were gripes from a lot of the mainstream, because, well, but not enough to destroy the show for me. I'm excited. I want to watch the new episode right now, but I can't because I got a different show to do. Corione.
Okay, so we're doing non-spoilery things here, right?
Affirmative.
Okay. This is an episode that needed to happen because we've gotten a lot from Ahsoka's direct point of view. We needed some context to build back up the energy to make her pieces matter even more. I think that's absolutely what happened. On top of that, as per the previous episode, you know, when you split the protagonists, you got to follow the other one for a little while too. So now we're getting that. That is fantastic. The music in this episode, in my opinion, was absolutely on point. The graphical fidelity that they went into for every little piece of everything was absolutely impressive. There are scenes that are flybys that I swear you can see animals playing in the grasslands as they're flying over. Fantastic work from the effects groups and from the effects team. In my opinion, the writing here was very, very well done, and the acting from the characters that occur here absolutely did work. And when we get into spoilers, I want to call out some very specific actors, but for now, I think that's where I'm going to leave off.
All right, Scogli.
I thought this episode was endless an exercise in the endless eye roll. I was deeply unimpressed with a lot of this episode. Baylan, glorious. Whenever he's on screen, yeah. But
Concur.
Absolutely everything about this episode was frustrating as hell and just had me just eye rolling and just.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I think I misspoke.
Flat.
I think I needed more of a 5 out of 7, and I'll explain
this
why.
fell completely flat for me.
So what's your rating out of 7?
Okay.
2.
Whoa. Okay.
I thought it was terrible. I was
right.
Like,
I'm a dumbass.
Eyes rolling constantly. I was like, geez.
I totally forgot. I had something set up for this week, and I forgot about it. But keep going with your ratings, guys. I got to figure out how to actually. Corione, I'll be hitting you up in the private chat. Stand by. John, go ahead.
My favorite part was when Baylan finally ran into Ahsoka and said, "Welcome, my young Padawan." That's how I felt about this whole episode.
All right, H. Marie, non-spoiler overview.
Making me care about much of what's going on so far.
I felt the episode was a little slow for my liking. I wish there was more Ahsoka, but as Corium said, there is 2, so we might as well follow the other half of the duo and see where they go. I am happy with the casting though for Ezra. That made me very happy.
Yeah.
All
yeah.
right. Well, that's good. I was gonna try and get this up. Actually, I'm trying to get a visual aid up and running, but I don't think.
Well,
it's gonna...
if you want to work on that while I do my visual aids, we can do that.
Okay.
So I've got a little bit of a show and tell here. For those who are unfamiliar, here, if we can get that presented. Sorry to pull you away, Petey. So this guy right here, he shows up as one of Thrawn's dudes. Now, everyone was kind of wondering who this dude was, and I tracked him down. Ladies and gentlemen, the man behind that mask is Wes Chatham, Amos from The Expanse. And you know if they're going to cast Amos, he's going to do something cool. Okay? They will not waste that guy, who is that guy, on a Joe part. So you know something cool's going to happen.
Yeah, the reveal of that gold mask was one of the highlights of the episode for me. I was like, that guy looks cool.
Right. You know what? I will say that they did deviate from Thrawn's appearance in everything we've seen him in so far in terms of the Chiss.
Who is this? Sheldon Cooper?
No, it's the guy who actually voiced Thrawn every time he's ever actually appeared.
I suppose that's pretty cool and a pretty good reason to cast him, but it looks absolutely ridiculous. It's laughable to me.
I respect that, right? I get that
Sheldon Cooper comes waddling out and he's like, oh, blah, 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 blah.
See, I don't know. I kind of liked his. Okay, while he does not look like the canon character very much, I agree that.
It's like,
I do like, though, the actor that's playing him. The voice is down perfectly. The mannerisms I thought weren't bad. I actually enjoyed seeing Thrawn on screen in live action for the first time. I thought that was very good. I thought his assessment of how he deals with his officers, how he deals with the logistics of everything, that I thought was absolutely fan-freaking-tastic. So I do appreciate what they've done there. Okay. I think the video, like the actual, the actual episode itself, look, they had to cover a lot of stuff. They had to cover it very quickly. I was not as big a fan of the journey Sabine took. I think is the best way for me to put it.
I was like, shut up. Like,
but I did, right. But I did like her interactions with the wolfhound she was riding.
Yeah, that was cute.
Right. I did like her interactions with Ezra when Ezra finally showed up. I'm wondering why Ezra looks like Moses. Like I'm waiting for him to like go to Thrawn, with some sort of force staff. And say, let my little shelled people go. But otherwise, I liked it. I liked where they were going. And look, yeah, you're absolutely right. Anytime Balin is on stage and they let him chew on scenery, man, there are teeth marks on everything.
Yeah, because this episode cemented Sabine as just the most colossally short-sighted and selfish character in any Star Wars production ever.
Absolutely,
I absolutely hate her.
Like I was absolutely 100% hoping she had some sort of plan here.
Like colossally stupid person.
Like
how pissed is the Mad Goose Wizard going to be when he finds out that she just completely voided his sacrifice and now they're stuck there. I know they're gonna find their way out, but he doesn't know that. Like, well, he's gonna be chapped, and they're all like la-di-da. I'm like,
yeah, like what I would have loved to have seen at the end of this episode is Sabine saying something like, "Well, I really hope Ahsoka found my helmet and grabbed the recordings of all the navigational information in it, or we're gonna be in real trouble." Because that would have justified the whole damn thing for me.
And it's a total crapshoot that she's even gonna get there because she's the whales. She's like, I don't know where they're going. It's like,
yeah. So
way to go, Sabine.
So my two big gripes: Thrawn, as Daniel Larson mentioned, not a fan of the body shaming, but at the same time, so it's not just the CG that they could have used and should have used. What I want to know is who what was going through, whether it was Filoni who directed this, I don't know who directed this episode, but why did we put Thrawn why do we try to put Thrawn in his dress whites, or in his standard white uniform? Why doesn't Thrawn have something that's like more dark gray, black, something that's got tattered, something that matches his crew? Why is Thrawn the perfect Imperial, aside from, having a beer gut after 13 years of exile? Why isn't his attire changed? Why isn't he wearing Imperial blacks? Why isn't he wearing something else entirely? Because Thrawn wasn't technically, while he was basically the Empire while on survival mode, they were also in survival mode. So Thrawn should have also been wearing something totally different as well.
For the record, the director of this episode was Jennifer Gertzinger.
Okay. Jennifer Gertzinger, you should have had a word with costuming and told Thrawn to be wearing something else, something that does not... White, if you're a fat ass like me, is your worst enemy. And so, needed something darker if the actor didn't want to lose the weight, which, he's a voice actor primarily. I get it. Not primarily a screen guy. I'm not shaming his choice to present himself how he did. It's more the casting director that allowed this to get this far, because it takes away from his presence. The voice is there.
It was not ominous.
The voice is there, but then the presence is kind of lost, because it's like, oh, here we have...
Plus, I have no idea who he is.
Yeah. Here's Grand Admiral Thrawn being played by a blue-painted, loser neckbeard. It's basically how that comes across with Thrawn as beard gut Thrawn. And then we'll get to the poll here in a second. But the biggest thing that would have saved Beer Gut Thrawn is if for the live action they decided to give him solid red eyes. That, I think, alone would have made, we could probably do a Photoshop with actual, solid eyes, or have, a convincing solid iris. I think that would do it. That would have sold it. That would have given him the presence, because then you don't know what he's actually thinking, because his eyes, you can't read them. That's part of the Chiss mystique, is that, you can't tell how they feel or the emotions that they're trying to hide from you, because you can't actually see their eye responses. All you see is a solid color staring back at you. Oh, that would have been so cool. But no, let's give him eyes.
It's unsettling, like the grays, right?
It's too humanizing. It's too humanizing. And Thrawn isn't a human, damn it. CC Karaoke says, I expected Ezra and Thrawn to be together from the start, playing into Ezra's dark side tendencies. I'm disappointed that they were not. So the thing that bothered me about that the most was I could buy Ezra hanging out with the turtle people and being a nomad for a while, fine. But Sabine,
she just found him in a couple hours?
Yeah.
What's Thrawn been doing for 13 years?
I don't get what...
He just didn't care? It didn't make any sense to me at all.
I mean, me personally, I was really hoping he was the dude under the gold mask. Ezra was the dude under the gold mask.
That would have been great. But Ezra being... Well, that's just it, Scogli. He's nomadic. He's been constantly on the run the whole time. So they don't know where he's been. And so it was enough. It was believable enough for me as a cover story or as an explanation. What I did not like, however, was that as soon as Sabine gets there, can I just enjoy the moment? No, Sabine, you cannot just enjoy the moment. You have 3 freaking days to get back to the ship before Thrawn goes zooming back to a galaxy far, far away. You don't have time to enjoy the moment. This is a really bad time to be sentimental. You came all of this way, you betrayed your master more or less to get to this point, and now you want to have sentimental No. Where's Mandalorian Sabine?
Whose sacrifice you just voided.
Right, exactly. Why are you...
the way her motion, it was just out of whack. It was completely inappropriate. I was like,
yeah, the direction on Sabine has
it's
not
because she
been
was
there.
thinking with her pants. Let's be honest. She wants to bone Ezra, and she doesn't care what happens to the galaxy.
That's the only conclusion I have. Nobody goes to this length for a best friend. Nobody. I'm sorry. It just doesn't. I love you platonically, that I would betray my friend to go across the galaxy. If that seriously is the case...
betrayed the entire galaxy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't like her. She's colossally
PD,
selfish and short-sighted.
PD, you will always be my brother. I would not betray the galaxy for you.
I appreciate that.
My wife, on the other hand, there's possibilities there. Let's be honest.
Yeah. I mean, depending on the circumstances, I might betray the galaxy for you. But the only thing that I can think of that would make sense to, betray somebody else that she cares about in the process for someone else is, okay, yeah, what are you not getting from Ahsoka that you'd rather get from Ezra?
Vitamin D, my friend.
Yeah.
Vitamin D.
Yeah, exactly. John 42, hail to you, good to see you, writes in, Lars Mikkelsen is normally not fat. Looks like he's wearing a fat suit in this. That's just to further bad decisions continue to come. All right, we got to get into this episode, but I did start doing community polls. I'm going to be doing community polls for pretty much everything we watch and talk about, so it's another easier way for you guys to interact with us on stream during the week, or off stream during the week, I should say. So, of course, I put out, how would you rate episode 6 of Ahsoka, and then mentioned how I'm going to do this on Tuesday night, and then almost totally forgot to do it tonight. But here we are. That's a pretty split ticket across the board there. So that's a good chunk of people definitely didn't like it. Looks like 14% of the voters decided that 4 out of 7 was good enough. So it's good enough to watch at least once. Not terrible, not super great. And then, solid 7 or 5 out of 7. So, yeah, like I said, and it's been split on this panel.
So, yeah, I mean, and you know what? And I will say this, even though I do, disagree with Scogli, I totally respect his opinion on it, and he does bring up excellent friggin' points, right? There's there's no arguing it, right?
When she when she gets jumped by the bandits and they come all out with blasters and they overwhelm her and knock her down, she's on the ground,
is stupid.
disarmed. They've got her dead to rights, and they just stand there and watch her for like 5 seconds while she pulls out her lightsabers, and then they all attack her with melee weapons, and they just put all their guns down and get slaughtered. I was like, oh.
Well, they didn't quite get slaughtered. She slices the guy's one stick, and then he has the common sense to run away, which I was so happy to see in Star Wars for the first time that somebody recognizes.
They literally just stand there for like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, they may as well have shown them all. They don't show them put their guns just vaporize, I guess.
Yeah.
They just don't have.
Yeah, some of the choreography. Some of the choreography.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. Some of the choreography has been a bit sloppy overall.
Okay, but
there's things that we can improve on.
That being said, Scogli, you have to admit the visual of the Chimera coming in, the visual of the Chimera basically landing the docking bay on the spire, right? The weird sisters, the three women were fantastic.
Yeah.
Thrawn's actual, the build up to Thrawn's appearance was executed flawlessly.
Hey, can we get that picture? Corio, can you get that picture of the Star Destroyer docking?
I can get it.
Please do.
I can get just about anything. Here we go.
Just a huge.
Can you give me a new graphics card by tomorrow?
By tomorrow, no.
Oh crap! I need my new GPU. Talk about a first world problem, but fuck do I miss my newer games. God damn. You never realize how good you have life. I'm never going to be bored with my games again. That's what I want to try and commit to.
I mean, that's a hell of a piece to take away, right?
Yeah. Daniel Larson says, Thrawn. I mean, Thrawn. Yes. So Dave Filoni has been open about the fact that Ahsoka has been inspired by Tolkien's writing. He's basically said on video that or was it on video or was it quoted? I don't remember. He specifically is on record saying that Ahsoka was supposed to go through an Ahsoka the White transformation, very similar to Gandalf. So he's not hiding the fact that Lord of the Rings has been his inspiration this entire time. And then, that's a metal as fuck visual. That's a very good shot. I agree.
That looks really cool.
And this is another one that I thought was just really well done.
Yeah, I agree. And then we got the other one with it
docked like that. I can't get a clean one in a decent resolution.
I'll just get whatever you can. It's more of a meme anyway.
Yeah, give me a sec here.
All right.
Right.
But yeah, it's Ahsoka is the Quina name for Waman. Interesting. That was decided way back before 2008, though. So I mean, to read into it as agenda and wokeism and nonsense, it's not.
To do it now is yeah.
There we go. Yeah. Oh baby, that's the stuff.
Yeah, like
That was-
that's the money
Oh,
shot
that
That
right
was
there.
the first, first thing that came to mind was, we need a website for stuff like this. For
Now,
starships.
I will also say that like one of the cool things I did like is you can see on Thrawn's Star Destroyer like clear damage from
That was
you know
cool.
like
It's like something I've
from
never
like
seen.
Pergil's grabbing it and yeeting it into
If
this
you want to
galaxy.
get a shot, or if there is a shot up like that available, we should get that one up there too. Because
let me see if I can-
I liked how Thrawn's Star Destroyer looked like what Voyager was supposed to look like by the end of Voyager.
Oh yeah, man! Like,
Like-
it was supposed to look like this broken down.
Like the shape is still there, and the character of the ship, but there's there would be all kinds of miscolored hull platings and pieces and stuff, because when you repair the ship from the inside, even from the outside with worker bees, it's not you're repairing the ship for function, not beauty. So instead
Like,
that show did the stupid thing of let's hit the reset button every week. We'll talk more about that.
I
on
mean,
Friday.
like, how great would it have been to see that ship limp across the finish line? Like, like it just gets into Earth orbit and then stalls out and just won't start
One of the
again.
nacelles falls off.
Yeah, like one of the
Or
nacelles
like
falls
the
off,
hinge breaks and it's like dunk.
right? Like, how great would that have been as like a final like parting shot, right?
that would have been pretty good. All right, well, I think
They do the thing where the things go up like this and one's like boop.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly, right?
Yeah, that's all right if you can't find it at this point, because I think it is now time
I
to
can't
move
see it.
into what everybody actually came here for tonight. And that is, of course, I know you're all excited for our hypothetical Star Wars Writers Room. This is the show, this is the portion of the show where we talk about what we like about Ahsoka and Andor and how we'd like to put it into a Star Wars show going forward. We do have this kind of origins of the Jedi and Sith story going that I think is a pretty promising idea, and I think we can either continue with that discussion if we feel we want to keep it going, or we can do what studios often do, and that's pivot to totally something else, just out of nowhere. But
I'm down to pivot if you guys are.
I guess I just, after Cameron mentioned, I guess there was already a potential Star Wars project in the works about an Origins of the Force, and now that Jon Favreau's going through the Rancor pit to find potential projects, that might be one that comes up. Not that we couldn't contribute to it, of course. I think we got a pretty solid idea. Two Maroon brothers that we kind of have a closed loop arc with the world between worlds. But I also haven't put any thought more into it since. So where do we want to go from here?
Well, if we want to continue the brothers here, the piece I wanted to put forward is we're gonna have to build character arcs for these two brothers.
Yes.
And like, because while we're building out a story for a larger plot of what we'd like to see and do with the Force and Star Wars and whatnot, we should also be building out what these characters are going to be like. I would like one of them to be fairly rational and pragmatic, and the other one to be very passionate and excited. And for you to think that the passionate, excited, hopeful one is who you expect to be the Jedi, and that's the one that's going to turn.
Yeah.
And the one that's very rational, very logical, and seems very cold, and you kind of don't like him initially because he's so cold. That's the one that winds up becoming the Jedi, because he's got the rationality to say, you know what? We need to stop this.
We need to check the passion.
That's it, right? We need to approach this with a little bit of sense of reasonability here. And
I like where that's going, but I want him to follow the dark side too.
so you want them to both
I
hit
want
the dark side at some point?
to fall to the dark side, because I'm thinking that maybe, like, let's run this scenario out, whether we play with it or not, it's whatever, but let's run this one out. So let's say they both fall to the dark side, so they both become adversaries and a threat to the galaxy. So what do most of the non-Force users or uninitiated do? They realize that they need to neutralize this threat, so they kill them both, basically, right? And then, when they get ready to bury the knowledge, somebody else says, no, this doesn't seem right. Something went wrong here. Because as you suggest, Corione, the practical one should have been the Jedi and should have gone through. But why didn't he? He must have been tempted by something else. So there is hope that there is a light side path. But in this instance of the origin story, both of them failed. And so now it's up to somebody else to come along and try to do it better than they did.
Actually, can I make a suggestion?
Of course.
I agree. Let's have them both fail, or fall, but have one of them come back and one of them redeem themselves by seeing what basically growing a conscience by seeing what their actions cause.
You know what? Let me rewind a bit. So what I'm saying in killing them, that was just a general, like, if they get defeated is what I should have said. So they're defeated and pushed back or pushed down or beat down. They get run off, basically. And as they get ready to destroy the ancient sacred texts that are very brand new, that's when someone says, no, something's amiss here. Something must have happened. One of them can be turned back, or maybe there's a lighter path, and so they start a different, like, sect of Jedi based off of, okay, we're going to take everything they did wrong and not do it. And that's basically one of the struggles of the light side, is just that the dark side can be so tempting, but you have to learn to balance it out. And that's why, I think that's basically confirmed to what we see in Ahsoka with Anakin, because he's clearly, like, aside from Revan, there is no other Jedi that has done that, what Anakin did. Or what Revan did, depending on what you see as canon, not canon. Revan walked both the light and the dark side path. Anakin also did the same thing, just in the opposite of what Revan did. Instead, he died, mostly on the dark side, didn't redeem himself. Whereas, he then obviously redeemed himself in that Ahsoka episode, I felt, because then we saw, okay, yes, Anakin did all those horrible things, but I felt that he was atoned for killing the younglings when he gets set on fire. Like, that's Anakin's atonement for that particular, definitely not sin, but act of evil. Because, oh my gosh, that is still one of the cringiest scenes to watch to this day. Like, I remember watching it in the theater first time. The reason I enjoyed it was because it was like, yeah, he had it coming. But I watch it now, and I'm like, man, Lucas did so good with that. Let's get back to that kind of Star Wars.
Well, if you want to get back to that kind of Star Wars, I just thought of the ultimate story. So instead of just two brothers marooned, it's three brothers. And the third disappears into the veil of the forest while he's trying to hunt for food in the beginning. And so he watches as his two brothers just both go dark side from opposite sides. And he's crying the whole time.
Well,
and then he finally breaks free of the veil. And
if we're gonna introduce a third, I mean, we could do a sister then.
Yeah, have the brother, the sister, and the father.
We could even go that route.
Stuck in the veil of the forest.
Exactly, and so they come back. No, it has to be one of the younger ones. Or see, I think it should be three, not father. It should be two brothers and a sister.
Well, hold on.
And
we need to clarify real quick. When we're talking about the father, the brother, and the sister from the I guess the beings of the forest, or caretakers, or overseers, I don't remember what exactly their title is. But when we're talking about those three, we need to recognize that they might not be like, actual physically related beings. They could literally be archetypes. So an older brother could be referred to as a father figure type. That does happen in families.
You're right.
So we can still do brother. We can still do keep it to siblings. We don't have to go to yeah.
Absolutely.
So this is where we can see the origin of father, brother, sister, though.
But see, that to me, I think is a different story, because I think if we do three siblings, where two of them are fighting forces and we're watching their life untold, and we realize in the last episode that what we were watching is what the oldest sibling was watching happening to his two younger siblings, and they've been losing their heart the whole time because they can't do anything about it. For 50 years their siblings have been wreaking havoc on the galaxy in their own way, and they've just been watching from the veil. And then when they finally come out, it's like Gandalf the White, but now we have to watch him wrangle the two most powerful users we've ever seen and their enemies, and also his kid siblings.
Maybe. I'm thinking let's go back to both of the males falling to the dark side, because the father has to walk both the light and the dark successfully. And so Corione's idea of one of them coming back to the light plays perfectly into establishing the world of the world between worlds hierarchy, for lack of a better reference. And so we do
what
have
version of walking the light than watching your siblings
right.
completely
So
obliterate the galaxy,
let me finish, please.
and then you come back and love
So
them.
let me finish. So here's what happens. We start with what we were talking about, the two brothers stuff that we have in both episodes, which I'm going to have to reference now and start writing down notes. We have the two brothers, and we have that story play out as we talked about. Like, they're learning new force powers. They may even start discipleship and whatnot. But the ultimate, the climax of that arc is that both of them fall to the dark side. One is very passionate, very hopeful, very full of life, which ends up being our Sith brother in the end. And then the other is very stoic, very calculated, older, obviously, but he also falls to the dark side. But he's the one that'll come back to the light over time. So once we have both of them fall to the dark side, that's when the sister comes in, and she realizes, no, there's got to be a better path. We can do this. She helps to encourage the light side. Then we get both her and the younger brother fighting each other, while the older brother, who has found his way to the Veil of the Force, is now seeing all this chaos play out. And that's where we can come in with your idea, John. And that's where he comes, that's when we come back into your story arcs. So we've got a lot of character. Man, fuck, this is good.
Well, I mean, stealing off Ahsoka. So,
sorry, John, you got noise.
Oh, sorry.
Cycle your connection, please. That sucks.
So as an idea, what redeems? So I think one of the things that we do need to ask the question of is, if we are going to have one of the brothers redeemed, what is the motivating event that causes him to realize, what the hell am I doing here?
All right, so
hold on. I was going to suggest he thinks he's killed his brother.
Okay. I just thought of it. Okay, so to take from Ahsoka, right? She gets knocked off the cliff. She's dead for all intents and purposes until we find out she's with the whales somehow, right? So in that same energy, that's what happens. That's what spawns one of them running away and the other one hunting them down, right? And so that's when the other one had started, Parker, your journey. So it could be older brother, older sister. The oldest sibling gets got.
Hold on. I gotta stop you right there. So the reason why the older siblings gotta be the male father figure type is because this is the lore that Filoni has already established within the world between worlds and the Veil of the Force. Right. So that's what we're trying to build back to.
Right. So what I'm saying is that the oldest sibling gets got before the other two leave the planet. So we have the animosity start, and then the kid that gets hit is the oldest, but then the older of the two is the one that got him, right? So the middle sibling got the oldest sibling, and the middle sibling gets hated by the youngest sibling for killing the oldest sibling, to the point that the youngest sibling begins fighting everything about the passionate side of the Force.
So the older one gets to the Veil of the Force because he gets killed by the younger one.
From Ahsoka, stealing from Ahsoka. But what we find out, but the older one was always guiding them down the noble path. And so instead of getting this idea of mothers and fathers teaching you, we can hit the target audience of a lot of America, where it's our older brothers that are the ones that are willing to teach us and talk to us about the dirty stuff, because their parents are too Christian and too strict and too shy to talk about sex, love, and girlfriends. So then we have to listen to our older brothers. But so they lose their oldest brother, but then he comes back and helps the one that killed him redeem himself. And then in turn, they help redeem the third. But then that creates these three are basically pure force at this point. So now these three contain themselves in one sphere, and that's where Anakin found them.
Maybe.
Okay, I get where you're going with this, and it does have potential. The trick then is we have to have additional characters writing out their story to start the whole Jedi Sith epoch.
So
then.
that's why we go
That's
back
the
to our.
best part. That's the part where we brought in last time about the ship landing while they're in mid-training. So the older brother's been gone the whole time after. So like we get 50 some odd years before the older brother finally comes out of the Force at the same age. And he meets the younger brother that killed him, who's 50 years aged. But let's say because of the Force, he's like now 25 physically. And the youngest brother's like 50, or the oldest
Unnatural
brother was 15
preservation.
when he died. And so what we see is this weird paradigm where the younger one is teaching the older one because he's been watching the whole time. And the one that was the one that killed him, the middle child, he's soloed. He's like Luke Skywalker exiled, and that's how he was able to break the veil, was because the one that was exiled had been just meditating and slowly tampering with the veil until it cut just enough that his brother could walk through. And now we find out what the brother saw for real. And so we start to see all these other tribes spawning off and starting Jedi and Sith and Sith and Jedi, Sith, Jedi, Jedi, Sith.
Well,
Sith,
yeah,
Sith, Jedi,
yeah.
Sith.
The original concept is we start with older brother, younger brother. I still prefer the they both end up falling to the dark side. But Corion, you're right. The story needs to be written so that it alludes to, your happy, hopeful one is going to be the Jedi type, right? And then, then what happens is he falls to the dark side. Okay, so he's doing his thing. So then that shifts the focus on the older brother. We think, oh, he's actually going to be the Jedi. Cool misdirect. You got us there, right? Wrong. The older brother also ends up falling after the fact. Then, like I said, your middle sister comes into play. The middle sister comes into play. She starts studying. She starts her own group of followers. That's what leads to her killing the older brother, who then gets in the veil of the Force. And so that's when we can get back to.
So here's my thought. My thought is it's all three on the island, right? Oldest brother.
No, actually, I like us having them start with both. No, I like us both having start with both just the two brothers, and then she finds out the aftermath in the process, or joins in the middle somewhere. Okay, I don't think she should be there to start.
So 10 arc series, your 10 arc episode, 10 episode arc. So episode 1, all three are marooned on the island, and we start watching.
No, I don't like it.
Hear me out.
I don't like it. I can hear you out, but I don't like it.
Let's just hear them out, and then we'll go from there.
So, episode 1, we have all three on the island.
No.
In episode 1, and this is not introducing the veil. We don't know anything about the veil so far.
No.
Right? So, episode
That's
1,
correct.
we have all three. The middle child kills the oldest child. This is where the animosity between the two younger children starts. The middle and the youngest,
I don't like it,
are mad at each other intrinsically. We have to have a cornerstone.
Yes, we do. The cornerstone
that can also
the cornerstone was that the two brothers get marooned. This is based off of last week's episode. Two brothers get marooned. They start learning the Force, and they start taking on disciples, and they start figuring it out. I'm thinking like people in like they're closer to 20 and 30s, because this is a show that I think does need to appeal more to between Gen Z to Gen X, not just millennials and Gen Z. And so I think that we need to just have the two of them there. Now, I like what you're on the right track. This gives us the animosity, but we don't have to do it right out of the gate. What we can do right out of the gate is we could show hopeful, happy times of, hey, we're learning new powers. Hey, we're doing all this thing. And then we start to kick in the tragedy slowly as the younger brother falls to the dark side. The older brother, we think is going to be the Jedi and lead them to prosperity, ends up falling to the dark side. The middle sister comes in to intervene and basically has to set up her own Jedi. But in the process of being that balance to the dark that she starts to be, she has to kill the older brother because he's the most dangerous. The younger, passionate one can eventually be contained, but the pragmatic, logical thinker, the Balin archetype, he is the most dangerous one there. So that's why she kills him. But the younger brother was learning a lot from the older brother. So the younger brother still has the motivation that you're saying that needs to happen. We just will get to this by maybe, if we get to that far in the arc, by episode 7 or 8. This is the climax of the story, is her killing the older brother. That's what we can have. Or the climax of the story can be both of them falling to the dark side. But I still think season 1 should be that foundational discovery. Everything's hopeful. Everybody's getting along. Everybody's happy. And then, unfortunately, power starts to consume the situation. And that's when, you know, they're like, no, we want to do this. And then they start killing each other over it. That's why they fall to the dark side. And that's where the initial drive can come. Because what happens then, John, is you give more time for the younger brother and the older brother to not just bond as brothers that they have been, but now this is going to be an even more powerful bond because it's solidified through the Force and through them making themselves the most powerful entities that they can be.
Okay, guys. So
when the sister kills the older brother,
you guys are both technically right, but hear me out on this part. The way Star Wars story arcs are structured is the light side wins a major victory at the beginning. The bad guys come back and fill the middle chapter with, oh crap, the bad guys won. And then the third arc, the third half, or the third part of the arc is there's a redemption section, and the good, the hero, if you will, is restored. There's new hope by the end of it, right?
So John, the sister could actually churn the middle brother by the end of this, 2-3 season show that we've now talked out.
But so my thought is, okay, if we want to do a 3-season arc, I think this is actually cooler. So if
honestly, there's no way that we could do an origin of the story in a single 10-episode season. I mean, if we could, if we were challenged to it.
I'm not even saying do a full challenge. I'm just saying I'm thinking about these concepts, and then from there you can extend.
Exactly.
Because that's the way. If you figure out the end and you figure out the beginning, it's always a circle. You start at the start, you end at the start. Yeah. It always happens, right? So when we do that, what I'm thinking is first we create the through line. What's the through line? It's Coriolis. There has to be a new hope, right? So what is the thing that wins in the beginning? I think it starts out as just family siblings learning the Force, as siblings do. So they have an intrinsic desire for each other's safety, because I've been in every other version of training, and I'll tell you for sure that siblings are the only people that actually care about your safety when it's training time. When it's training, everybody is in it for themselves, but when it's siblings training, there's a little bit that tells you, yeah, did I push him too far? Did I push him too hard? And that's the point. So end of season 1, I think you're right. Happy-go-lucky. We get 3 Force users learning the Force, marooned on an island, and they're getting good.
Oh, no, I think
nowhere to go.
I think the end of season 1 should be the 2 brothers falling to the dark side.
Actually, okay, no, hear me out. First season should be them getting to the point where they're doing more than just survival. The first season is all about getting to the point where they've moved beyond surviving. They've gotten to thriving.
Oh, so you're thinking a bit of a Raised
is
by
all
Wolves.
about their fall.
Yeah.
The third season is about the redemption of one of them.
Okay, so I'm going to harken back to the reality of where we came from as a species, which is parents taught kids how to live. And sometimes the parents were eaten by lions and the kids kept going. So that's a real thing that has happened. And those kids did eventually live full 100-year lives, potentially. That's a thing that has happened in the past. So theoretically, the parents instilled enough in the oldest brother and the middle brother, or the middle child and the youngest child. And I think it should be the brother at the top because of the whole father thing. But the oldest brother is helping these brothers, and it's exactly what you're saying, Parker. It is gang. They are basically Peter Pan and the Lost Boys. They're growing up and they're living a perfect life because the Force is helping them. Like, not only is it flowing through them because they're young kids that are open to the universe and they're learning about it in real time, but at the same time, like, they're also able to use the Force to fight that lion themselves. And we're like, whoa, these kids are getting good, to the point that the training accident is an accident. And we've seen a whole season of them being so good to each other, but it creates an animosity between the younger two. And the older brother is now down for the count, end of season 1. And these two are about to just lose it on each other. So I say we kill older brother episode 8, and then episode 10 is when the two younger ones are about to end each other, crash landing ship. And now we meet this new civilized society, season 2. Now we have the escalation of the Force with the two brothers, or the two younger ones, doing everything we've been saying. They're the ones that go out, experience the Force, thread it. And we're like, which one of these is going to be the Jedi? Because we have no idea that the oldest brother is sitting in the veil watching. And we see for season 2, all of this escalation of tyranny from both angles. One's like, I'm going to love everybody to death. And the other one's like, I'm going to hate everybody to death.
Yeah.
And we just see these fights fight.
Yeah.
And then season 2 ends with the break of the veil. And season 3 is the redemption arc of one of them, whichever one killed the oldest brother. And then that's where we watch as the Force becomes the Force, because the one that didn't do anything wrong is so pissed that technically nothing happened and they were right all along for being mad, but also wrong for being mad.
I think that's...
They can't get over those inner conflicting feelings, and that's where the true dark side resides, which is like, yeah, you can be passionately right and then abuse everybody on your way to kingdom.
Yeah. Well, we're not killing off the older brother in the first season. I don't like the way that plays. I think that's going to play out too long and add a bunch of extra complications. Whereas what you should do if you want to have a training accident scenario is, like, there either needs to be like a local tribe or some kind of group of people needs to, like, eventually get involved. Either they're getting rescued, there's more stranded ships. But I think by the end of season 1, we need to have, like, it's a group of people. Now, we can still do what you're saying. The first 3 or 4 episodes can still play out that child survival. This is how they learn to survive, and we can still have that moment. But then we can start to branch out into bringing in more characters and cast, that we can have somebody be like a best friend to the family or whatever. And actually, the friend of the family can even crash with them. It doesn't have to be related. But then you have the friend of the family get killed in the accident. That still motivates, these decisions to start falling. But then they could also start to reorganize their order into being, like, more kind of like Spartans. And that's why it slowly falls apart, because they don't have any established ethics yet.
I think I know how to do this.
Okay.
Hear me out. The brothers crash in an escape pod, just the two of them. Okay? Or the triumvirate here crashes in an escape pod on an island. Now, the island is far too far away from the mainland to swim to, but the rest of the ship crashed on the mainland. Okay? They get it in their mind. So season 1 is going to be, the first arc of season 1 is about their base survival. The second arc of season 1 is about them trying to build a boat to get off the island to get to where everyone else should be. When they get there, they realize that the rest of the crew has been captured by this native tribe of aliens that are using them for some sort of labor. The final bit of the
Pirate Island. That's what marooned them.
Sorry? Yeah,
Pirate Planet. That's what marooned them.
Perfect. So the end of the first arc is about liberating the rest of the crew. What starts the second season is now, what the hell are we going to do with these damn pirates? And that's what initiates the turn to the dark side. That's where we get our conflicting action between the two brothers. Because one of them's like, no, these people enslaved our friends, tried to kill us multiple times.
Killed our mom.
They go.
But saved our dad.
Yeah. And the other one is like, no, look, I can't get behind killing people that we've captured. I just can't. Right? I can't get behind the killing of prisoners. And the rest of the crew, have them be divided. Have them start taking sides. That's where we start getting the factions from.
So we can have it then that maybe the sister's the one who gets separated by herself. The two brothers are kind of on their own, but they eventually get to a point where they can save the rest of the crew. And then after they've saved everybody, then the sister finds them again. But she can already tell that okay, why are you guys? We were supposed to be raised better than this. Why are you guys why have you turned this into?
Guys, I totally got it. You know what? So the sister is initially literally grabbed by wolves, okay, or grabbed by a native animal, okay, early on, very, very early on in the first arc of the first season.
First episode.
She bonds with them through the Force and comes in as the
Force
cavalry.
Wolves.
She comes in as the cavalry on the Force Wolves at the end of the first season.
I like
Family gets reunited.
That's perfect.
First season ends on this optimistic note, but then we have the opportunity for the second season to go dark.
I still really want the two brothers to fall to the dark side, to work together, to bond together, to then have the middle sister kill the older brother. That's how the older brother ends up in the Veil of the Force. And then we have the conflict between him and her for a while while he watches it from the Force, from the Veil, and then comes back.
Back to the idea of the Force being most powerful in the young. The youngest sister, that's what pits the brothers against each other. They are so frustrated that both of them were not awake when she got snatched. And so we see this young girl dealing with the Force in this very sweet, fairy tale idyllic way, while the brothers are dealing with it from it's his fault that she's missing. How are we going to tell mom and dad? And that's what we see all throughout season 1. And then season 2, little sister comes rolling in on a freaking horde of sunshine and saves the day. And everyone is like, thank you. But then we're left just sitting there thinking, wait a minute, what are the brothers feeling? And that's where the brother animosity just keeps fighting. They're like, wait a minute, we didn't technically lose her, but I still spent all season hating him. And we're both watching these two brothers hate each other because they both are sure that the other failed, and they're both sure that they failed. And we watch that inner conflict of just being a person, right, who made a mistake, especially a young kid. But we watch as that young kid with power and faster. And then we watch this little girl who has yet to deal with any of this issue, is just thriving in the Force. And then watching her brothers, while also now the parents, one or both, are back. And the little girl is learning honor and respect by the numbers as an adult, but also she's like, I'm Jack from The Incredibles.
Another great discussion overall. I think we got a lot of good ideas. It's time to start probably jotting them down and then getting some plot handed out. We'll probably get some actual character development for next week's session. I think that'd be our focus. And then let's maybe try to get DS9 too. But John, watch DS9. You complain about Andor being too visually heavy, yet DS9 you've praised for being very radio play-like. So come on, just put it on in your ears.
Time. If time existed, the biggest issue, for me, I like this more. I like this hype mostly because I do redo these in my head all week. I like writing. To me, I realized a lot about especially watching Andor, is that most of the shit's been done already. The only thing that's new is the thing that's up here. I have to write it. I have to imagine it. I have to think it out. So when we do these writer rooms, I'm full tilt. Let's write. But then go a week without it. But
So-
it comes back to me quick. That's why for me, like I thought we did a lot of character development. We built cornerstones. We discussed the like main
Yeah, real quick,
arc
Corey,
of
and then I'm going to
hate
start
and
closing.
pain.
Yeah, so just super quick, one of the things I love about this theoretical writers room is that we're using an existing IP, because playing in somebody else's sandbox means I have to draw within their lines.
Yep.
Right? And having to sit there and go, okay, let's see where we can slot into the established lore so that I'm not breaking canon, but what I am doing is expanding the existing canon. And that for me is an exceptional challenge, because I can't just make up my own rules here. I have to use their rules. And that to me is a fun challenge about this.
Yeah, I agree. All right, that is it. That is all the time we have for tonight. So I'm going to quickly, because we had a lot of people show up tonight. I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Kamran Pasha once again for giving us some time this evening. Welcome back anytime, especially if you want to help headline our pop culture news segment. That'd be perfect. But of course, you'll also be getting back to work, so we totally understand and respect that. I want to thank Nemesis of Eden and Philip Blair for the first and second comments of the stream. Very good to see you guys early on. Orville Nation, always a pleasure to see you. You're welcome back here anytime. Daniel Larson, same as well. Thank you for keeping all of you guys. Thank you for keeping discussion respectful, civil. Dahlia Lightwood, we always do like to see you as well. And
Thank you, everybody. You guys were awesome.
Stephanie
And thank
Janzik,
you.
Smuggler's Cantina, good to see you. Hope Ahsoka was awesome. Planet Musk Blog, good to see you again as well. And Shinatsky, good to see you as well. And
John 42.
John 42, and I think Jonathan G94 also showed up at one point. Kyle Gaggio, please like, share, subscribe, send this out to all of your friends. Daniel Larson says, see you in 2 weeks, maybe late next week. Hey, whatever works for you. Like I said, we're always there on the replay. And yeah, so thanks everyone, of course, for your time tonight, as always. And we do appreciate it. We are looking to, like I said, I'm now launching another show every Friday, starting at 11:15 a.m. Pacific time. It is called Casual Free for All Fridays, meaning it is open discussion, pretty much any topic. This week's topic, based on the poll, is looking like what we love about Star Trek. That's where the discussion will start, and who knows where it'll go. But yeah, we're gonna start doing that, probably running for about 3 hours ish every Friday to get your Friday started, or at least continued, or through the rest of it, wherever you are that time. It'll be Casual Friday. Daniel says Casual Friday means I can come without pants. Yeah, you guys can watch our streams
right.
wearing whatever's comfortable for you. Because I'm not gonna see it, so I don't care. But yeah. Any final words, guys, before we bounce? Please.
Milkshake.
No, I think I'm probably to go right into watching Ahsoka after this, and then from there. Oh, right, I forgot. I started the countdown late, so I got a little bit of it going. Guys, we do have a Subscribestar now. Subscribestar.com/TheWriterBrothers. If you are looking for an easy, cheap way to donate $3 a month that you can basically count as a tax write-off, we have that option for you, and you help support independent content so we can keep adding more shows and more lengthy discussions. And of course, our podcast listeners, we appreciate you too. And I want to thank everybody else. I'm Peter York, the rest of the see you. This has been a presentation of The Writer Brothers Tuesday Night Live Show. The Writer Brothers, restoring respect in a discourse.